Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. The child giggled at him, raising her hands in the air. An angel. That was Enoch Rubinson's first thought upon seeing a baby who looked exactly like him. He felt warmth spread through his body at her reaction and wondered, could it be that she recognizes her father? It was an irresistible pull, a bond tied to blood and perhaps even affection. But why? He couldn't understand himself for feeling this way. Like most ability users in the Empire, this child had been conceived merely as an obligation to continue the family line, bred like a stud horse. He thought he would feel nothing. It was supposed to be nothing more than a small being that shared his blood. A child destined to grow up as an ability user. A noble, and eventually a soldier and imperial hound. Blood drained from his face as he realized, no, he couldn't let her live as he did. He placed a gentle kiss on her forehead and took his baby away from the wretched place, thinking he couldn't let her live a life in this wretched battlefield. He suddenly halted when a voice reached his ears, asking if he is thinking of running away. With the child, no less. Selena, the child's biological mother, asked him what is he even thinking about. He dropped his head as if he couldn't stand being this vulnerable and admitted he did not want to raise her into living a life like his. Selena whispered it is her child too. A tense pause of silence before he offered to run away together. Selena looked shocked before she burst into laughter. She did not realize he was such an impulsive person, reminding him they were born destined to die. She leaned in closer, telling him as ability users and nobles of the Empire, this child is no exception. He had no reply for that. She told him she understood how he felt, and having a daughter does make him think differently. He gritted his teeth, thinking he couldn't give up just like that. But then she looked away, telling him to go. This shocked him as he looked back at her with a confused gaze. He then admitted he planned to head to Xenon, and he did not know if he would stay there though. A small smile graced her lips as she wished him luck and then disappeared into the night. On that day, the Empire's sole sword master, Enoch Rubinson, disappeared. That was 7 years ago. 7 years later. The sun is bright in the sky as Rubinson tries to wake his daughter up. She groans, pleading with him. Just 5 more minutes. But he snatches the blanket away, instantly waking her up, telling her it is time to brush her teeth and have breakfast. The man wearing an adorable cherry pattern apron and a spatula in hand is James Brown, the ultimate domestic parent. The daughter complains that she is not hungry, but the dad tells her he made her favorite chicken egg dish extra delicious just for her. She sniffs around, but then deadpans it's not just chicken and eggs. She smells broccoli as well. The dad gasps in shock. She explodes at her dad, reminding him she doesn't like broccoli. James tries to convince his daughter to eat only 2 pieces of broccoli today. He promises if she eats them, he will give her chocolate macarons with apple jam for dessert. However, this makes her more furious. He is trying to bribe her with chocolate macarons and apple jam. Does he think she is the kind of child who would fall for something like that? But then she agrees. Only 2 pieces, though. He thinks good. It turns out she is that kind of child. Determined, she thinks what is 2 pieces of broccoli anyway. He gently kisses her on the cheek and whispers who's daddy's sweet little angel. Her name is Lilith Brown. She is 7 years old this year. As a child with a somewhat special secret, gradually recalling memories of her past life while growing up, she is now enjoying peaceful and happy days with her dad, James, a super skilled homemaker and parenting master. She gradually began to recall memories of her past life around the age of 3, and now, at the age of 7, she remembers everything perfectly, including the fact that this world is inside a fantasy novel she read in her past life. In her past life, she thinks she wasn't human. She remembers she was a graduate student, though, and believes that wasn't a life fit for a human. So at the flowery age of 25, she died from overworking while staying up all night writing her thesis. The title of her thesis was this: A Study on the Characteristics of Social Reform Suggested in Fiction, focused on the fantasy novel Rebellion of Does. She thinks how overwhelming the stress from her thesis had been for her to end up reincarnating into this novel itself. Until the memories of her past life came back, she was no different from any ordinary baby. Even now, after remembering everything, her past life feels faint unless she deliberately brings it into mind. Instinctively, she finds herself fully immersed in her current life. As she's picking on the broccoli, she wonders if she should just hide it under the chicken nugget. She thinks even though she can think like an adult now, her childish dislike for broccoli hasn't changed one bit. As her father is brushing her hair gently, he asks her what hairstyle should they go with today. Bunny ears or a princess look? She groans in frustration, wanting to do her hair herself, and just tells him to give her ponytails. James bursts into a genuine laughter, reminding her his princess is still a baby. She cannot even reach Dad's waist. She grumbles it is just a body if he knows. For some reason she is smaller than the 5-year-old next door, but she is a smart child who has the mind of a proper adult, and she is aware she shouldn't act in a way that makes adults feel weird, right? Thinking that, she blurts out just do bunny ears. When he's done making bunny ears, he looks at her and says she is so cute. He teases her, whose daughter is this pretty. He then informs her today he needs to go to the market, so she should play at the neighbor's house. He will tell Aunt Susan. However, she questions why can't she go with him. He starts not for now. There are scary soldier uncles walking around these days. She grumbles, but that has nothing to do with her. She doesn't have any abilities, not even the size of an ant's poop. However, he points out it is still not possible. It is dangerous. The scary soldiers her dad talks about are elite soldiers from the Imperial Royal Army. They came all the way to this rural territory hundreds of miles away from the capital. The Imperial Army occasionally comes down here to find ability users. In the world of Rebellion of Does, where she reincarnated, humans are divided into 2 groups. Those who can use magic are called ability users. Those who cannot use magic are called the powerless. Ability users can live with noble titles and receive high treatment, but they have a pyramid hierarchy where individuals are strictly divided based on their abilities. Frequent wars break out and ability users are often drafted into these conflicts. In this story, even the main characters are mercilessly killed off. Ordinary humans, the powerless, don't even make it as supporting characters in this novel. That includes her dad and her. Ordinary brown hair and brown eyes. Even his name is as common as James Brown. She thinks he's clearly an extra. Out of the blue, she exclaims she actually likes it. Being born ordinary is a huge blessing, making her father confused, who asks her what does she mean by that. She tells him it is a scary world. She loves living simply and happily with her dad, just the 2 of them. She admits with a huge smile that she is happy. Her father flinches in his spot before he recovers himself and says that is right, as long as he has her, he is also happy. Handing over his daughter to the neighbor, he requested her to take care of her today as well and then says goodbye to his daughter as well. The neighbors tell her the story about her dad, that at first they were not even aware he was her dad. Just one day a young mysterious man suddenly came into a village on a mountain and lived quietly, without saying a word to anyone, as if he had some story. And then one night his dad came, looking pale, holding a baby that was her. In the flashback, her father was looking scared as he muttered he was sure she wasn't sick, but she wouldn't eat. He knew she was hungry, but whenever he tried to give her a bottle of milk, she screamed and cried. Susan gently took the baby from him. As she rocked her back and forth, she realized that was what had happened. She gave him a smile, saying she must have had a tough time, and invited him in. Inside, she gave the child baby food. She had grated some apples and mashed bananas mixed with baby formula. When he lifted the spoon to her mouth, to his shock, she ate it. Even though the baby was over 5 months old, she had only been drinking formula. Tired of it, she started holding back her hunger and expressed it in her own way. Susan's husband admits after that, he became very polite with them. Every time his wife and he appeared from afar, he would quickly run over to greet them. Susan smiles and says because he was raising a baby for the first time, he must have felt lost. So from that day on he kept asking and learning about everything he needed help with. Lilith is shocked to think that Dad, a seasoned house husband, would be like that. Susan's husband announces he won this time, but he said too soon. She grabs his hand and tells him with an evil smile she has the full house. She shrugs, saying let's play again tomorrow. She always welcomes the challenge while he grumbles. She then expresses her gratitude, admitting she had a great time, and tells him to go ahead, she's going to do the laundry. Susan is shocked and asks why is she doing the laundry. She should just leave it. She states she will do it so Dad doesn't have to do it himself after coming back from a trip to the market. Susan looks at her with awe, admitting she really has a heart of gold like an angel. Susan tries to reach for the basket, offering to do it. But Lilith pulls away, saying there is Dad's underwear too. She starts heading off with the basket in her hand, thinking about how Dad doesn't like it when she secretly does the laundry. Still, she wants to keep doing it. She was an orphan in her past life. The only memory she has of a kind guardian is her current dad. At a young age, Dad took care of her on his own, changing her diapers, feeding her baby food, giving her baths along with everything else every single day. The significance of that being there for her since she was a baby, when a bond formed between them means a lot to her. She promises herself she will grow up quickly and repay him with filial piety. As she washes clothes by the pond, she thinks the life of an extra is so peaceful that she wishes she could live every day like this. Although in this world she is a powerless commoner who isn't treated as a human being, her life is a bit poor. But still, she believes from then on she will just leisurely enjoy a good life. Once a better world is created, from then on she will just enjoy a good life. She believes compared to her past life, there's nothing better than this, and that reincarnation is the best. But then she snaps out of her thoughts at the sound of running horses. She wonders why the sound of hooves is echoing through a quiet village like this. Confused, she looks up at the approaching group of soldiers on horseback and notices the imperial crest. It is the Imperial Army. A man wearing a blue cloak looks down at her, his gaze scanning and examining. Confused, she wonders if they are the Doze-class knights of the Empire. Her blood runs cold when he orders his men to capture her. They harshly pick her up and touch her with a detector, making her groan in pain. They announce she is a gifted individual. It seems she really is Enoch Rubinstein's daughter. This shocks her and she tells herself there must be something wrong. The man exclaims. He can tell just by looking at her. When he grabs her, she starts struggling in his arms, pleading with him to let her go. However, all her pleas fall on deaf ears. He inquires where is Enoch Rubinstein? She questions who is that. But then her blood runs cold as she realizes it is the name from the novel. He is the commander of the Holy Knight Order, the most powerful military force in the story. He is ranked Holy Knight and Sword Master as well as a Duke. He was the strongest character in the story. In his youth, he lost his young daughter due to the imperial family and on a certain day sharpened his blade for vengeance. At that time, he took another male lead, Jesse, as his adopted son. He is one of the two main protagonists, she thinks, seeing how he's searching for Enoch Rubinstein and his daughter. It seems the story is set before the original events began. His daughter must still be alive now. However, she's confused. What does that have to do with her? It doesn't matter. She blurts out, "Hey, wait, he's terribly misunderstanding something." He asks her what? First she wants him to let go. Her head is spinning as blood is rushing to her head. He continues to look at her with his cold eyes. She remembers black hair and blue eyes. There was a character who looked like this, but who was it again? But then she reminds herself she's in a tight spot right now. She asks him if he's talking about Enoch Rubinstein the Duke, who's also a holy knight and sword master with silver hair and blue eyes. He says yes. She continues that she might look similar to him because of her silver hair and blue eyes, but her dad's name is James Brown, not Enoch whatever. She was told that her hair and eye color is just like her mom's who left home a long time ago. He points out she seems quite educated. At that moment, someone screams her name, making her freeze. Her dad is standing there with his sword out, a fierce look on his face as he questions what is the man doing right now. He warns the man if he doesn't want to die, put his daughter down. Lilith freaks out thinking his dad has gone crazy. Doesn't he know who these people are? She is shocked over how he is speaking disrespectfully to a high-ranking noble, and it is grounds for immediate execution, and he's threatening to kill him on top of that. She muses goodness dad is out of his mind. She looks up at the man with a pleading smile, telling him her dad cannot live without her. She thinks he's just temporarily lost his mind, and if they could be so lenient, she would be eternally grateful. She then points out that no matter how he looks at him, he's just a random citizen of the Empire. He's a 27-year-old single father living in a mountain village, struggling to make ends meet while collecting firewood with his young daughter. When the man doesn't pay attention to her and continues to look at her father, she waves her hands dramatically saying, "Excuse me over here." In the next second, he throws her over like a potato stack to the other guy and heads over to confront Rubinstein while mumbling to himself, "Looks like that is not true." Rubinstein demands to let go of his daughter. However, not a single reaction as the emotionless conveys that the Emperor commands him to immediately return to the order and fulfill his duty. Lilith blurts out she told him her dad's name is not Enoch whatever. The man then states it has been 7 years isn't a time for him to end this. When Rubinstein's face crumbles, the man continues, as he knows better than anyone that according to the Pavilion military law, deserters are subjected to immediate execution until their whereabouts are confirmed. They are considered a fugitive and treated as a Class 1 criminal. However, His Majesty holds him in high regard for his past devotion and abilities. Despite clearly violating military laws, no arrest warrant was issued for him. His title and wealth has not been confiscated either. Lilith makes an adorable pout, thinking why is he speaking in a way she doesn't understand. The man finally adds until now, all his illegal actions have been overlooked and they have been waiting for him. Now it is time for his return. He then claims once again he will relay the Emperor's words. Disobeying the Emperor's command will only result in death. Rubinstein smirks and remarks the Emperor's words are as flashy as ever in the past and present. Lilith covers her mouth in extreme shock, unable to digest how her father is referring to His Majesty. She thinks mocking the nobles and insulting the royal family he really has crossed the line. Her father continues, suggesting isn't it time that the Emperor gets a little more honest with his words? He has simply kept the kennel empty for his dogs to return, hasn't he? Unable to bear this any longer, Lilith thinks she needs to stop her dad and run away before this gets any worse. With that, she clamps down on the man's fingers holding her. She lands harshly on the ground, causing her father to shout for her while she rushes toward him. But before she can move, the man grabs her roughly by her dress and lifts her, making her dangle in the air. Her father curses and demands that the man let go of her, while Lilith pleads with her father to stay quiet. She coughs, then gives him puppy eyes, holding her hands together in front of him, apologizing and begging him to spare her dad's life. She tells him it's all because of the color of her hair. She completely understands why he's mistaken. She promises she will go with them. She will cooperate with the investigation, and then he will see that it is not true. She curses Enoch Rubinstein in her mind, wondering why that man has to look like her of all people. At last she becomes overwhelmed. A tear slips from her eye as she blurts out she actually knows Enoch, whatever his name is, very well. She promises she will check everything for them. She is sure he's hiding somewhere right now, and she will even help them find him. Crying, she tells them to spare her dad just this once, and she'll go with them. However, in the next moment, the man's eyes widen in disbelief as he swiftly grabs the child protectively. She looks on in shock at the scene before her. Power begins to emanate from her father. He lifts his sword, and the man holding her does the same. His features begin to change, revealing his original silver hair. Soon, standing before them is not the 27-year-old single father living in a mountain village and raising his young daughter alone, but Enoch Rubinstein, the most powerful swordsman in the world. The man suddenly hands over Lilith to the knight and tells him to make sure the child doesn't get hurt and to step back and wait. She is still in shock, thinking he's the person they were talking about earlier. She then looks back at the man whose hand she bit earlier and attempts a weak smile, thinking this man was just diligently carrying out his duties. A powerful burst of light shocks her, and she turns back to the scene. Her father sweeps his sword through the air, and the light emanates with such force that even the man struggles to stand still. Rubinstein mutters in disbelief that disobeying orders leads to death. He must have found it funny. He stands in all his glory and power, asking in a mocking tone, how do they plan to subdue him? His powers intensify, overwhelming the man, as he screams at the man, how dare he touch his daughter? The man holding his daughter shouts at him to stop right there. He uses his daughter to threaten him and demands to surrender peacefully and follow them. If they do, they will guarantee his daughter's safety. This makes him livid, that he dares to threaten him with his child, and that the so-called Holy Knight order is laughable. The other man intervenes, saying they are merely carrying out the Emperor's orders, and his order is to bring him by any means necessary. He mutters he has renounced that name. He no longer intends to live in obedience to the imperial family, and they can go and tell his master that. The man grits his teeth and states this is not a choice he's giving him. He raises the sword to his neck and states it is an order. The other Holy Knight lifts a sword at her daughter and says if he wants to ensure his daughter's safety, he should stop now. She blurs out, hold on just a second. She thinks to summarize the situation. Her dad, whom she thought was just an extra, is actually the hidden protagonist, Enoch Rubinstein, and she is the part of his story. In other words, in his youth, he lost his young daughter due to the imperial family and sharpened his blade for vengeance. Now he's in charge of taking care of his young daughter. She thinks, is that for real? She wants her sweet extra life back. Once all of this becomes clear, knowing the original story, she thinks she only has one choice. She gives them a beaming smile and states, of course, if it is the Emperor's command, they must follow it. She announces on her dad's behalf that he's going to the Night Order today. Everyone gazes at her in shock. Later, she rolls on the floor like a petulant child, screaming. She looks just like her mother. He sits on the floor, his head lowered, muttering apologies. She screams at him, asking why he didn't just tell her. He apologizes again, saying that even if he had 10 mouths, he wouldn't have anything to say. But then he smiles genuinely, lifting her up and teasing, who did she take after to be this clever, huh? He praises her quick thinking in the situation, saying, "Thanks to her, they bought some time." He calls them fools for believing he would return and releasing their hostage, pointing out that as long as his daughter is safe, he has nothing to fear. He quickly packs up their belongings and announces they should hurry and leave. She stands there, continuing looking at him. She cannot help but think, is this really happening? No matter how she looks at it, he looks just like the village idiot. Well, she guesses he looks scary only because they were threatening to harm her. She sighs, announcing they need to talk. He asks her with a smile, "What is it?" She tells him not to run away. "Let's go back to the Empire and return to the Night Order." He freezes. He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. She continues she wishes to live proudly, and she wants to go to the capital with him. Determination shines in her eyes as she declares she will enroll in the Ability Training Academy and get her badge as an ability user too. She is an ability user after all. The father looks pale as he mumbles, "What is she talking about? How does she even know about the academy and all that?" She lies, Uncle Joe told her. He still looks surprised and questions how does he know and why would he tell her something like that? What was he thinking telling a kid that? He swallows and then crouches down, telling her to listen carefully to what he's about to say. The truth is, he has always known this day would come, that scary men like the ones outside could come for them. She looks at him with wide eyes, and he continues even though he knew he still ran away, because he did not want her to grow up as an ability user. Living as an ability user or as an ability might look appealing, but what she sees isn't the whole truth. In the Pavilion Empire, ability users are treated like royalty. Depending on their rank and expertise, they receive noble titles on vast lands and countless gold coins, and command the loyalty and obedience of all. But these privileges come with obligations. They must become the Emperor's sword, shield, and staff, serving their entire lives as members of the Imperial Elite Corps. He points out that in an empire where each day is a conquest for hunting magical beasts, the elite corps constantly dispatched to the battlefield are no more than glorified war servants. That ability users are both nobles and soldiers, warriors and mages, spending nearly their entire lives on the battlefield. And the battlefield is a truly horrifying place. He reveals a friend he greeted the day before died and was brought back to him the same day. As he buried that friend, he wondered who would die tomorrow. And how long will he survive? He looks at her with vulnerable eyes and admits he's scared. He doesn't want her to live a life like his. She gazes at him with sad eyes and mumbles, "Dad." He confesses the first day he saw her 7 years ago when she was born. That day she became his entire world. He suddenly hugs her tightly, saying he cannot bear the thought of losing her. She thinks she understands him better than anyone, and she wants to do as he wishes. But if he doesn't return, this country will fall. And that is right. He, Enoch Rubinstein, cannot stay here. In the original story, he returned to the Night Order to avenge his daughter, and took in the main lead, Cheshire, meticulously planned a rebellion from within the Night Order and sparked a revolution in this country. Because about 10 years from now, all ordinary people will die. The imperial family will enact a mass extermination policy for non-ability users. A literal genocide of ordinary people who lack magical abilities. She believes the only one who can stop that is her dad. And if they run away together now, he won't take Cheshire, the male lead, or rebel against the imperial family. Susan and her husband flash through her mind as she thinks, and then everything will fall apart. Innocent extras like her will all die, won't they? She thinks, yeah, she cannot just live as a fugitive and watch the country collapse. She looks at him and asks if he wants her to live her whole life running away. He replies, not really, but she said she wanted to live a simple life just with him, just the two of them. She looks away and mumbles she has had a bit of a change of heart. Confused, he questions what does she mean. She points out ability users are nobles, right? And as his daughter, she would be the most powerful noble of all, and that she could eat macarons every day and wear dresses with ribbons too. He looks at her with his mouth gaping open. She thinks at this point she might as well use her memories from her past life to speed things up, find Cheshire sooner and help ensure his revolution succeeds. She exclaims she wants to be a noble. She wants to be a real princess. She reminds him that when they go back, he won't have to struggle to chop wood and sell it in the market anymore, and she won't have to wait for Dad to come back all the time. And she also won't do the laundry. Her father tells her that he told her to not do the laundry, yet she keeps doing it anyway. She is really frustrated as deep down she thinks that she's sorry to her dad, and she didn't wish to act this way. She yells at him, questioning why didn't he tell her. He's taken aback as he calls out her name. She asks him why does not he want her to live as an ability user. She asks him what if she wanted to live as an ability user, a noble. As he didn't ask for her opinion, he calls her princess, but she pretends to be mad, and she states she doesn't want Dad to be the only one who calls her that, and she really wants to be princess. She shouts that she is not Dad's daughter. He's shocked as he questions what did she just say. She mentions that she's not James' daughter. With tears in her eyes, she claims that she'll be Enoch's daughter, threatening that if Dad doesn't go, he'll ask those uncles to take her. He kneels down on his and gives up for his daughter. After a while, she stares at her beloved cottage, knowing it's filled with memories of her childhood. She never thought that she would leave like this. She's aware that now her life as a regular countryside extra is over. What will await her from now on? She's in the carriage, almost about to fall asleep, but is startled awake. She asks her dad what's that. He asks her if she's all right. They're told that those are wolves, to which her dad asks if they are kidding them. The knight tells them that he knew its habitat was nearby, but he didn't expect it to come down the village. He tells them to wait here and he'll go and take care of them. Her dad tells her to stay still in the carriage. She should not move, and she must not come out under any circumstances, and not even stick her head outside. She asks her dad with a shocked look, questioning where is he going? Her dad tells the knight that he should shield the carriage, as if he finds even a scratch on his daughter, the knight will be dead. The knight asks him if he's going himself. Mentioning that is unnecessary, he grabs the sword, asking the knight how long does he expect him to wait while he takes care of one werewolf at a time. Her dad begins to fight with werewolves, and Lilith becomes shocked and starts to panic, asking the knight, why is he just standing here and not helping her dad? The knight replies her that her dad will handle it himself. She asks him what is her dad. Right in front of her eyes gets rid of all the werewolves. She wonders what in the world is going on. She ponders that the power of the strongest person in the world, the gap between reading it and seeing it in person, is tremendous, a noble that only produced top-tier ability users, the foundation of aristocracy, the Empire's only swordmaster, the silver wolf of the battlefield, the undefeated soldier. Her father comes back and asks the knight that he told him to shield the carriage, so why is he just standing there? She is still lost in thought, thinking that the abnormal existence that has been described about 5,000 times, the protagonist's true strength, she can see why he is the protagonist. The knight states that would have been dealt with in seconds and says it's such a waste of mana, to which her dad says he's unbelievable. Lilith wonders, isn't the rise in status a bit too steep? She in the blink of an eye became the daughter of the strongest man in the world. In South El Pasha Temple, they came here to use the temple's warp gate, which is only found in big cities, to move to the capital, since commoners can't enter the capital in their regular clothes. She changed into something else. She's wearing it as she finds it so soft. She thinks it's an overnight rise in status. One of the knight asks her that she's 7 years old. She responds yes, she is, to which the one questions if Duke Enoch starves her. She responds that's not the case. The knight asks her then if she has been scolded, as isn't her dad scary? Asking what happens if her dad gets mad. Doesn't she get hit? She asks then when did her dad scold her. She seems very confused. She says that when she hid broccoli under the chicken, or when he caught her secretly eating chocolate after she brushed her teeth. They believe whatever they want to and state that she's still young, and it's understandable as he is raising her quite strictly, stating that of course he is Enoch Rubinstein. Asking do they think he'll spoil his own child? She clarifies that he doesn't do that. They both ask her if that's all, and she has never been hit. She responds that she has never been hit, and she has never been scolded. She then asks the two of them if her dad is really that scary, causing both of them to be shocked. One tells her that he rips bears apart with his hands. She's totally taken back by that. One says that he is cold, but how cold can he be? He was a superior that was hard to get close to. They ask weren't they kind of close to the commanders. Lilith then looks at one of the people, knowing that she remembers that person, and no wonder he looked familiar. He's Action Lieber Rank Moss, and the reason he joined the Knight Order is that 7 years ago he took the commander's position after her dad disappeared. He'll be her dad's closest ally and Revolution's comrade in the future. As expected, he was a major character in the original story. She realizes so that person was Axion. She thinks that with such a handsome face, there is no way he is an extra. The knights are talking that earlier Duke Enoch tried to kill the commander, didn't he? Knowing if things could have gone wrong, it definitely would have been murder. She realizes that her dad is here and runs to him. She ponders that even if she had not read the novel, she'd still know that he's the protagonist. He looks at her before he picks her up. He calls her an angel. He's really stunned as he says he can't believe she's an angel, and that's her true identity. She thinks that he is doing it again. He says that his daughter looks like this while he is always wearing rags. She tells him that they're not exactly rags. The commander thinks that he's a bit too much. He tells them to not waste too much time and leave immediately. Her dad gives her a little kiss. They then leave through the hole. When they arrive, they're welcomed as he responds that it's been a while. The priest wishes that may the blessing of Primera be on them. They ask him if he is planning to return home immediately, and should they not at least hold a brief homecoming ceremony they prepared after receiving notice that he might return. He questions that the imperial family will be holding a homecoming ceremony, right? He'll see them then. He says that today's journey has been long, and he's afraid that his daughter might be tired. Meanwhile, after a while, they're outside as she is looking at the view. She finds so many people outside. The commander tells them to not stray off, but go home immediately. Enoch also tells the knights that they have come all the way here, so they shouldn't wander off, but immediately go home. He asks Lilith if she is sure that she doesn't want to ride the carriage. It's a 15-minute walk to the capital. He questions if he should carry her. She mentions that if he keeps carrying her, she'll forget how to walk. She'll walk as she wants to see the capital too. He says if her leg hurts her, she should tell him right away. She tells him that she has got it. She ponders that it is starting now and she should stay focused. The protagonist, who no longer needs to think about his daughter's revenge, Rubus and Enoch, she made a huge mistake that completely erased the chance for the original story to begin. To fix this, they have to follow the original story from now on no matter what. The first thing she needs to do is, everyone is greeting them while kneeling down. She ponders that she knew this would happen and finds it a bit too extreme. She wonders what kind of country is this where people grovel to greet people. She thinks if this world didn't have such blatant disregard for human rights, the protagonist wouldn't have the chance to start the revolution, and she wouldn't have anything to write her thesis about. So the first thing that she has to do is find the other protagonist, Cheshire, and make sure he meets her dad. Her dad can't start a revolution in the corrupt empire by himself. He absolutely needs her help. Cheshire, sword master of the Doe's Mage Knight Order, the son of the magical examiner. In the story, he is one of the strongest, with Enoch Rubinstein in the top-tier class. His punches seem slow, but there is one problem with the current setting. Originally a noble illegitimate child, he lived a life of abuse, but by chance he caught Enoch Rubinstein's eye and was adopted as his son. She wonders what exactly was that chance event. Their first meeting isn't even mentioned in the novel, so she doesn't know how they met. But since her dad's daughter is clearly alive, he likely has no interest in Cheshire, so she needs to artificially arrange their meeting. It's like looking for a needle in a stack of hay. She then notices something and asks her dad, "What is that?" He tells her there's nothing and says it looked like there was some conflict. Since the security forces are patrolling, they don't need to worry and they should just go. She tells him that if someone is fighting over there, they should go and stop it, shouldn't they? He tells her that's true, but she doesn't want her to get into danger for no reason. However, she tells him let's not do that and go there as her dad is really strong, so everything will be all right. He guesses so and they step in there. She notices kids bullying one kid. Her dad asks them what are they two doing there.